Welcome to the Future of Less Work, the podcast where we're exploring the transformation of work, one conversation at a time. I'm Nirit Cohen, and today's episode is special. We're coming to you live from the WebEx conference, Cisco's WebEx conference in San Diego. And I'm joined today by Jeetu Patel, Cisco's president and chief product officer. We're going to ask him, given everything that's going on with AI these days, what do you feel like when 8 billion people can do the work of 80 billion people? Jeetu, welcome to Future of Less Work.
Nirit, thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining me.
Thank you for being here in San Diego.
Oh, thank you for inviting me. It's been a pleasure. It's actually...
It's a long trip from Israel.
It is, but it's also really interesting to see a company that's focused on the transformation of work, because closing the distance between us is so important.
We call it distance zero.
Oh, yes, you do. I love that term.
Yeah.
In fact, I wasn't going to start there, but let's start there. This
start anywhere you
idea
want.
that we can collaborate over time and space. How do you see this evolving?
Well, you know, the thing that I find is like the human potential is very evenly distributed, but opportunity is not. And I think we need to make sure that we try to get the distance that actually keeps us from fully harnessing human potential in different parts of the world to just not be an issue and not become an impediment. And so in WebEx, we've been actually at it for the past 5 years and just making sure that you just physically take away the distance from two people. Like, look, the reality is it's very hard to simulate this.
Yes.
With a screen.
Yes, and we've tried for so many years, and we still get on planes, and here we are, right?
Yeah, and the serendipity of real life is hard to replicate.
Yeah.
But what you want to do is try to make sure that you have that barrier be taken out as much as you can, and we've made a tremendous amount of progress. One of the things that the team has done is, especially with AI now merging with society in such an integral way, you're going to start to see the fusing of humans working with AI so seamlessly, where every human's going to be a manager of agents, and every human's going to go out and work seamlessly with these agents. And that'll actually fundamentally change the way that productivity will be enhanced, communication patterns will change. So I'm pretty excited about the future in general.
So before we go to AI, I actually want to stay a little bit longer on the human to human, because everyone's talking about humans and AI agents and how do we work together. What I really loved is that you're staying on this human to human. You're basically saying, okay, we're going to offload all this work, right? But we still need to be able to work together.
Yeah, I find this kind of notion of humans are going to be sitting on a beach and not have enough to do because AI is going to do everything just to be an absurd concept. Because like the creativity of humans is going to be very hard to replace by just a machine. And so the way I see it is, humans are going to be an integral part of society for as long as society exists. In fact, the definition of society is a collection of humans. And so, we are not going to just stop being creative and all work being done by machines. Now, every job will get reconfigured, but each one of us will have meaningful value to add. And so what we need to do is optimize for those scenarios where humans need to communicate with humans so that value can be created in a very, very, innovative way.
So this idea that stop hiring humans, right? This idea where we get $1 billion company with no people because we can just replace people with AI, you're not buying into it.
I think two things can hold true at the same time. You might have the next $1 billion startup that might be one employee. That will absolutely happen at some point.
Yeah.
And you will also have more opportunity for humans to solve problems that we had just never thought possible. And those two things can hold true at the same time. Like, you don't have to have the obsolescence of human jobs in order for extremely high scale to be reached by humans with a collection of agents. Those two things can be true at the same time.
Yeah, and you are making a whole bunch of announcements this week at WebEx about tools that are supposed to help us offload the things that are not important. I called this podcast "The Future of Less Work," not because I think we're going to do less work, but because we should be doing less of the type of work that doesn't matter and more of the type that does.
Yeah, I'll give you an example. I think the most underestimated part about this era that we're in right now with AI is the original insights that AI will be able to generate that didn't exist in the human corpus of knowledge, that then allow us to go solve problems that we never thought and deemed possible.
Like what?
The way in which longevity of life gets tackled, the way that diseases and healthcare gets managed, the way that material science can come up with new materials, the way that every single aspect of our society, the financial system and the movement of money, the manufacturing process, how robotics are going to play into society. All of those things will actually require original insights that didn't exist in the human corpus of knowledge, because AI will generate these original insights. And when they do, you will have an augmentation of intelligence in proportions that were never imagined before.
So what's our role?
It's going to be augmented to humans. And so we will have a tremendous amount of value and instinct and gut and judgment that we will add to this piece as well. AI will add things, like the way I think about this is there's levels of maturity of realization. Level 1 of maturity is people say, oh my goodness, AI is going to take my job. Every job will get reconfigured.
Yeah.
Some jobs will be lost.
And we're seeing that, by the way, from both sides. We're seeing employees saying, AI will take my job. We're seeing some general managers say,
yes,
AI will take your job.
Yes, the current job configuration, you will have refactoring of current jobs, but that does not mean that humans won't have jobs to do. And I think those are two very different things. In every tech revolution that might have happened, you will actually see a reconfiguration of jobs and new jobs that emerge. So the level 1 maturity is AI is going to take my job. Level 2, people are like, AI might not take my job, but someone who uses AI better than me is definitely the person that might take my job. And level 3 of maturity gets to be when you say, I can't imagine doing my job without AI.
Yeah, and in some places we're already there. I mean, some people are working with AI.
Completely.
And I can't imagine writing anymore without AI, which is kind of embarrassing.
And it's not actually embarrassing. It's just the new way of doing things. And the faster you adopt it, the more relevant you get to society. And the more you resist a megatrend, you don't end up winning by resisting megatrends. You want to use a megatrend as a tailwind.
So when you if you're talking to your employees or basically to anyone listening to us or our children, you tell them, here's what you should be doing to stay relevant, to future-proof yourself.
We tell this to our Cisco employees. If you don't use AI, chances are you will not be as relevant, not just to Cisco, but to society at large. And so we highly encourage people to use AI, to take risks, to augment intelligence to their current intelligence that they already have. Because isn't the goal to make sure that we can actually solve problems that we weren't even able to dream of solving before?
Yeah.
And by the way, every single people keep looking at AI and saying, well, this is just like the mobile revolution or just like the kind of
internet.
When you went from mainframe to the internet.
Yeah.
I actually think it's less like that and more like when fire was invented.
Yeah. Or electricity.
Or electricity was invented, where it's the kind of the seismic proportion of change that we will experience as a result of this augmentation.
Yeah.
Is something that we should actually take a moment and just kind of absorb.
So going back to that, and I've actually heard you say that unlearning becomes as important as learning. This whole idea of what's the value of experience these days. And I'm also thinking about all those companies, and we see it in the data, that stopped entry-level hiring. And you're basically saying that's not the way to go.
It's the stupidest thing you can do.
Yeah, would you please say more about that?
So firstly, unlearning, why do I think unlearning is so important? experience in a lot of areas is a prerequisite for success. Like if you want to get a surgery done, you don't want someone to do the surgery for the first time on you. Like you want to have had that person have some miles, you know. A lot of areas though, experience can become an impediment because you've actually got a certain set of very strongly held beliefs based on history, and you're not willing to let go of them because you're like, this is what happened in the past, so this is what will happen in the future. And in my mind, you need to have a combination of experience and inexperience in the workplace to really make magic happen, because there are very important things that experience brings to the table, and then there's very important liabilities that experience brings to the table as well. So the more an individual has the ability to unlearn, the better off they are at being able to then keep approaching things with a fresh perspective. If your experience becomes your anchor, then that's not a great thing. If your experience allows you to better recognize patterns, fully recognizing that those patterns could change in the future.
Or could be wrong.
Or you could be wrong. And that there's 50 variables. Then like one of the worst things people will say sometimes with experience is, oh, we tried this 5 years ago, it didn't work. There might have been 500 variables that changed between 5 years ago and now. So just because we tried it 5 years ago and it didn't work does not mean that you shouldn't give it a shot again because conditions changed.
So now bring new talent, new higher talent, entry level into the mix.
So I think there's this narrative these days that says, well, entry level jobs are obsolete.
Yes.
AI is going to take all entry level jobs. Therefore, we don't need to hire any entry level people.
Right.
It's bonkers. This makes no sense, because the beauty about the aging process of humans is that we all have a certain window of time where we learn, we apply that learning to create value, and then we teach, right? And that's the kind of cycle.
Do you think that still holds? Because I wonder, historically, you had your experience and now you could teach. And I'm thinking there are a lot of things I'm learning today from entry level.
I think you might teach with wisdom, not experience all the time.
Yes.
Right? And so there's a difference in my mind.
Yes.
What ends up happening though now is if people say, I'm not going to bring in new talent, what you're doing is you're basically saying, I'm not going to inject any new perspectives to the mix. And so the only perspectives that exist are the ones that are there.
Yeah.
And I actually, I learn more from the student interns coming in sometimes than I do from my peers. And why is that? Because it's just a fresh way of looking at things. You know, like if you look at a 20-year-old and the way they use AI, and you look at a 30-year-old, I'm not even talking about a 50-year-old like me, but a 30-year-old that uses AI. The 20-year-old will say, we'll use it in a very different way than the 30-year-old. 30-year-old uses it as a search engine on steroids. I'm going to use this for going out and being very transactional. I'm going to get my job done more efficiently. A 20-year-old uses it as a thought partner, as a brainstorm companion. It'll actually ask it saying, hey, I'm thinking of this idea. What do you think? You know, it's a very different way to approach solving problems with technology.
So what do you tell your managers then? Because I'm thinking, okay, now they need to manage people and AI on the team.
That's right.
But you're also telling them your role is to listen to some of those new people coming in and not just tell them, we tried this 5 years ago.
I think everyone's role should be to teach and to learn.
Everyone's role.
Everyone's role, right? And if you don't do both, then you're actually only addressing half the equation. And teaching means adding value to someone else's perspective. Learning means having someone else's perspective add value to your perspective.
How does a CEO learn?
By asking a lot of questions. In fact, I think the CEO has the most amount to learn. The higher you go up in the food chain, the more questions you ask and less answers you give.
Yeah, I used to say the higher you go up the food chain, the more quiet it gets, the more people said no to things before they got to you, right? So you have to uncover all those.
And you have to make sure that the questions you ask are instructive in nature to push people to think. Like that's what a job of a CEO is. That's what a job of any of the leaders and executives is to, are we asking the right questions to push people to think outside of the bounds of what they would consider normal?
And does the culture allow people to tell you what they really think?
Exactly. And by the way, do not have hierarchy dictate the regulation of ideas.
Which is really hard to do.
It's actually, I'm not sure if it's that hard. I just think you have to have a different mindset because, and it starts from the top. If the people at the top don't believe that their idea should win all the time, then you create a different culture. I'll give you an example. It's very hard to engage in a debate for me and believe that I'm going to win 90% of the debates, because the person on the front line that's closest to the problem has thought about that issue for 14 hours a day. I've thought about the issue for 5 minutes. Even if I'm 10x smarter, that person should win the debate almost every single time. But what you can do is pressure test in certain ways so that people can actually participate in the creative thinking process.
Yeah, make sure that, that they've thought through
They thought
everything
through it.
you wanted.
Like I used to have a mentor who would always tell me, Jeetu, ask 3 levels of questions. 100 level, 200 level, 300 level. If someone can answer the 3rd level of questioning, they've probably thought through the issue well enough. If they actually drop their sophisticated thinking and level 2 of questioning, then it's very superficial, And
So let's go back to communicating across time and space. If you kind of look at where you're going or where we think we should be going, if you envision, 2 to 3, I used to say it a lot more, but you can't really say more than 2 to 3 these days, years down the road, what would it feel like for us to be communicating without being in the same space?
I'm hoping that it gets more natural to communicate with technology than what it does today. And the technology getting augmented into the fabric of humanity is not as jarring as it is today. Today, up until recently, humans had to learn the language of machines.
Yeah.
Right?
And
we
now
have
we're
now
speaking
changed
to
that.
them. Yes.
Now we're speaking to them. Now the machine's asking us questions. It's making us think.
Yep.
But there's actually an irreplaceable value that humans have, and that they have instinct, they have judgment, they have a gut feel, which is formed by incomplete data. And I think the hype of AI right now largely underestimates the power of that.
Yeah, I would agree. The way I say this is because we've never had to. We used to think of ourselves as hands, working hands and thinking minds. And now we're replacing working hands and thinking minds. We think there's nothing there. It's that extra, right?
It's the X factor. It's
What
the gut.
is that exactly?
Yeah.
Well, I call it the heart, by the way. What is
Yeah.
it that value add the humans bring in that makes you and me, right?
That's right.
And makes us different.
And being right with having incomplete data most of the times is a really hard skill to teach a machine.
Yeah,
It's a
well,
very
they seem
hard
to
skill to
think
teach a
they're right
machine.
and then apologize for it at
Yeah,
this
because
point in time.
in general, like most of the times you will actually find that, machines do a very good job with very large swaths of data to come up with a conclusion by analyzing very large corpuses of data. Humans do a very good job when you don't have all the data.
Yeah, filling in the blanks.
Filling in the blanks and saying, I've got a gut for this. I've got an instinct that's right. And I could look at the progress that society has made in the past couple of thousand years. It's mind-blowing on what humans do, and everything around us didn't exist, and we've actually created it just by sheer imagination.
Right.
I
And
think-
you need to know how to ask the right questions.
Yes, and you need to have the ability to have hunger and determination, and if the odds don't favor you, that doesn't mean that you just give up for it, you just keep trying. Like there's a special quality to humans that somehow in this dialogue of AI, we seem to have completely forgotten. And to me, it's absurd. It's like, why would you ever think that it's a good idea to not hire the next generation of talent that has all the possibilities in their minds of anything? The world's their oyster. And it's going to And that inexperience, coupled with the wisdom of someone having seen the patterns when pulled together, that's what creates magic.
That's perfect. So here's a question I always end with, right? Because we're really good at asking questions for answers. I actually want to ask you for a question.
Yes.
So what's the question you think we should all be asking ourselves about the future of work?
What problems have we deemed and written off as impossible to solve that might no longer be impossible to solve? And how does that actually enhance the human pursuit and quality of life and happiness and well-being and fulfillment and all of those aspects? I feel like those are important questions to continue to keep pondering, because it gives you a very, very different framing with which you can start to think about the problems. Look, the quality of the problem that you pick to solve in your life is directly proportionate to the success of the outcome. In that, the harder the problem that you pick, the higher the likelihood of success, which is very counterintuitive.
It is counterintuitive.
And the reason for that is because great minds get attracted to hard problems. If you have an easy problem, I need to figure out a way to build a lemonade stand. You're not going to have the best minds get attracted to that problem. But if someone says, I'm going to try to launch a rocket ship on Mars, that is a very different caliber of a problem. I'm going to attract the best minds.
And here's why I'm interested in doing it.
And here's why I'm interested in doing it. There has to be the why.
Yeah.
But when you do that, essentially business is a team sport. And you attract the best minds, you're going to win. And so in my mind, asking questions that simply were dismissed as unsolvable and trying to ponder how you can now solve them because you've got a new variable that got entered into the equation.
Yeah. So you now have a partner in solving it that we've never had
Not just
before.
one partner. You might have thousands of partners because on average, you might have, like, for every human, you might have 10 agents, 100 agents, 1,000 agents.
That's a lot of intelligence
capacity of solving in a very different way.
Yeah.
And that's an exciting part of society. I think we've started approaching this with far too much fear and not enough opportunity.
And that's what I love about our conversation. I want to thank you for that, right? Because you're coming into this with deep knowledge and understanding, but also basically with a lot of optimism. You're basically saying this is a good thing.
While not being delusional about the downsides.
Yeah.
Which is really important.
Yeah, absolutely. And our own responsibility in making sure we're staying relevant at personal level, company level. Fabulous. Thank you, Jeetu, for joining me today. This was a wonderful conversation. And I want to thank you for joining us on The Future of Less Work. And if you want to hear more about Jeetu, Cisco, the WebEx, you look us up. There's going to be some details in the episode description, as well as on LinkedIn, right? We can find more about everything that's going on LinkedIn, and the profiles of Cisco and Jeetu Patel. Thank you for joining me today. And remember, your best people do not work because they have to. They do not work because you tell them to or because you pay them. They actually work because they want to, because by working for you, they're doing what's most important for them in life. Till next time.